everyone. Today I have a special guest, the classical composer Doug Helvering, and most of you probably know him already because he's in the same genre as I am on YouTube, more or less. He is the owner of the YouTube channel The Daily Doug. Welcome, Doug.
Hi there. Thanks for having me, Amy. This is going to be a fun conversation.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Well, we discovered your channel, The Classical Composer. The title caught my eye.
Mm-hmm.
I was a bit skeptical at first because I'm always a bit skeptical about YouTube claims, but Vlad tracked down some of your music, and out of curiosity, I listened and I said, "Oh, hey, he's legit. He actually,
Okay.
yeah, he's right. He is a composer. He can actually do this." So
Thank you.
I suddenly got much more interested in what you're doing, and thought it would be fun to meet and have this discussion.
Yeah, this is great.
And yeah, I think it's going to be fun. And yeah, you're legit. At least
Thank you.
according to me.
Thank you.
And since we're both classical musicians and we both have a YouTube channel on basically the same topic,
Sure.
I thought this would be... We decided to do this kind of both of us, you and I both, being both guests and hosts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Doug 5 questions, and he's going to ask me 5 questions, and we'll just go back and forth, and it'll be fun.
It'll be dueling interviews.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. So Doug, how did you end up a classical musician? I mean, as opposed to the jazz, rock, whatever world.
Wow.
Why classical for you? And what's your story?
Yeah, I think it was the draw of being in a choir. I did not come from a musical family. Both my parents are quite non-musical folks, and we were sports people as I was growing up. So if we were out on the weekend or watching something on television, it would be the game or listening to the game on the radio instead of listening to music or records off the LP. That's what we were about.
That is so interesting.
And as I got older, we moved around a little bit, and I found myself in choir as an 8th grader, and it was the hardest thing, the most vulnerable thing, and the most exhilarating thing that I had ever tried, including all of the team sports that I was involved in. And so as I went kind of higher in team sports and then kept getting injuries, the choir thing kind of started overtaking it, and I started playing a little bit and learning the piano by ear, by theory a little bit, and then as I got into college, I decided to keep going in choir, and I ended up writing a few pieces, and people said, "Hey, you've got a knack for this. Why don't you keep trying it?" And composition was a fun thing. I really found a calling to it. I love when something that I've thought of in my head starts coming out of other musicians. It's crazy. And it just became getting into the choir world, and then I was trying to figure out if I was going to do my master's or not, and they said, "Well, you're pretty good at this. You should go to Westminster Choir College." I'm like, "There's a choir college? Cool, I'll go there." And you get exposed to all of these great musicians from around the world, and it was off to the races. After that, I said, I want to do this, and I ended up getting my my DMA, my Doctor of Musical Arts, from the University of Kansas back in the day. And
what a fabulous,
yeah,
fabulous way to get into it. I mean, that's fantastic.
People heard my choir music and then kept asking me to do more choir music, so I kind of got into doing choral and vocal stuff for most of my career, and that's how I became involved in the classical side or the concert music side of things versus the rock or the jazz or anything else. Yeah.
How cool. So I assume that this 8th grade choir experience must have been a school choir?
Yeah.
Lucky you for having a school choir.
For sure.
That's all the more reason to have to push this whole keep the music in the schools thing,
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. We had just moved, our family had just moved to Omaha, Nebraska. And I was 12 or 13, going into 8th grade, something like that. And we were with the guidance counselor. I remember this like it was yesterday. And in walks the choir teacher, who was a guy, by the way. The choral director at a middle school was a guy. And he says, "You don't need a study hall. You should take choir." And I'm like, "I've never sung
Good
before
for
in my
him.
life." What he says, "Well, we need more guys." And he says, "I think you'd be good at it." And I said, "Well, what's the ratio?" He says, "Well, right now in the 8th grade choir, we've got about 35 girls and about 6 or 7 guys." And I'm like, "What time does choir start?" That sounds like a good way for me to learn the people,
There you go,
especially
there you go.
at a new school. So, yeah, that's where the gals were in the choir. So that's
Right, of course. Wonderful. Wonderful. That's a lot of fun.
indeed.
And that started the whole journey.
It did.
How cool.
So, should I ask you one now, or
Yes, ask me a question
Okay,
now.
so
Let's make this kind of a duel back and
We go
forth.
back and forth. So I haven't had a chance to watch as many of your videos as I would like to. You know, we get busy doing our
Same
own
here.
things.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're all busy in our own musical lives. So
But I see your harp
when
there.
am I going to sit down?
Right? I did take a look at your Sound of Silence videos that you put up a week or so
okay.
ago. I very much enjoyed them. I reacted to that piece as well, and it's just a great piece, a great cover. But
It is.
the thing that I wanted to ask you first was, I love the harp. How did you come to love that instrument and want to specialize in that
Oh,
one?
that's a story. Well, okay, so unlike you, I grew up in a home that classical music was the sound of my growing up musical life. Neither of my parents are professional musicians, but they are both musicians. And on my father's side, there's this generations deep tradition of piano technicians. My dad has built a harpsichord. He's restored pianos and eventually started manufacturing harps. Once I got into the harp world, that was a little later down the road. But we lived and breathed classical music. I mean, that was the music my parents loved. That was the music they admired, and that was the music that they had us growing up with.
Sure.
And so I remember, well, we didn't live near a big city center. So we didn't get a lot of live musical experiences. Okay. Most of them were either created ourselves, piano, cello, my parents playing, or listening to recordings, records, CDs, tapes. And I remember as a small child, my dad had this old record player with two speakers, one on each side, and we kids weren't allowed to handle the records because we might scratch them, so we would watch him in awe as he put on the needle, and then there was our music for the morning, right? So I remember 2 recordings specifically that we had in our little music library. One was Christmas with the Vienna Boys Choir, and Herman Prey and Placido Domingo.
Right.
And on that CD, there was a whole kind of suite of Christmas carols accompanied by harp.
Was it the Benjamin Britten Ceremony of Carols?
No, it wasn't the Benjamin Britt. It was more traditional carols.
Okay.
But they were the harp arrangement. The harp was played and the music was arranged by Ossian Ellis. Well, if you're a harpist, you realize Ossian Ellis was the harpist who played Benjamin Britten's music. Oh my goodness. So anyway, I didn't know that at the time. All I knew is that there was harp. And I remember as a child putting my ear up, turning the volume down low after my dad gets the record playing, turning the volume down low and pressing my ear up against the speaker to try to pick out more of the harp sound. Somehow I thought that if I got closer, I could hear more of it. There was something about that sound that really drew me in and pulled me towards it. And to this day, I don't know why it attracted me so, but it did. And it still does. And many years later, I had the opportunity to study with an outstanding harp teacher who, well, that was the beginning of my formal harp studies.
There you go.
But that's really how it began, was this, little child dream of, I had never even seen a harp live. I hardly knew how they looked. All I knew is how it sounded. And
It's a magical
that was the
instrument. It really
sound.
is. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love the instrument.
Yeah.
It's a magical instrument. So warm.
it is.
Yeah.
It's warm, it's light, it's silvery, it's passionate, it's colorful. There's so much in it that I just, I love it.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, so that's how it started. Well, let's ask you another question. How did you come up with this idea of engaging with non-classical music
Non-classical.
and making the project public on YouTube?
Yeah.
And kind of, what were your expectations at the beginning?
Yeah, it's a crazy thing, the things that we do on YouTube, right? It's like, who would have ever thought that that's a thing? It actually came about more out of necessity than anything else.
Okay.
It was, I had taught at Westminster for about 13, 14 years. And Westminster is going through a generational shift in the university. And as we hit 2020, I lost my gig.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they
Wow.
were downsizing, and we weren't sure if we could sing because it was like a way
Exactly.
to spread the virus, and it's like
Exactly.
choir musicians were apoplectic during that time. Vocalists.
Oh yes, I remember. It was terrible.
And I found myself applying to other universities and coming up with the fact that there's no university everybody was on a hiring freeze. Because nobody knew what was going on with the pandemic, and I'm like, we're gonna need to keep eating at some point. And so I started looking for jobs in the private sector, and it's weird when you have a curriculum vitae and multiple like more than a decade of not working outside of a university. And it was like, what do I even do? So
Good luck getting your foot in the door, right?
Yeah, it was really emotionally up and down. And
Wow.
while I was unemployed, I started the Daily Doug because I was looking for work all day, and I was getting depressed, and I was getting just, worried about the future. And I thought, I got to do I've got to do something that's
something to lighten the mood.
Yeah, that's positive. I got to do something positive with my day. So I started off. It was in the lead up to the 2020 election. So I started off just talking about
that takes it even further.
stuff.
There we go.
Yeah, I start because I was kind of jaded on music at the time. It was like, okay, this is gone, and I just got in front of a camera and said, this is what I'm thinking right now, and this, and then like 4 or 5 months later, it was my little brother. My little brother, who is actually the music connoisseur of the family, he said, you should do these reaction style videos. And I'm like, I don't, okay. And he says, no, you're good. You should just tell them how the music works and do your thing and be Doug the teacher and listen to it. I said, okay, which one should I do first? And he says, you should do Iron Maiden because they're a great band. They're a great band, and their fans are great. They'll find you. And lo and behold.
They found you.
Yeah, they found me. And then people started sending in, oh, you do reactions. You should do this song. You should do that song. And, you just follow the YouTube comments. And 6 months later, we had a Patreon. And we haven't looked back.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I love the way your story is just so natural, so organic. Oh, I just ended up in a choir in 8th grade. Oh, I just ended up jobless with everybody else at the beginning of COVID. And so I just started doing this. It just flows naturally. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, it was literally like people ask, like, how'd you end up going this? Because there was no other thing to do for me.
Yeah.
With the skills that I had cultivated over the many years.
Right.
It's I love composing, but I really love teaching too. And this is kind of
I love teaching.
like I view these videos as like mini lectures, like instant improvised
Exactly.
lectures. And that's what we do. We're academics. We lecture people.
And now we get to lecture the whole world on YouTube.
Indeed,
Isn't that fabulous?
indeed. So with you, with your performing, did you ever perform in an orchestra? And do you have a standout memory of performing or being on stage with your instrument? Like a big culmination of like a big piece, or just a recital that went really well? What's a standout memory of being a stage performer for you?
Well, that's an interesting question, and now I'm having to decide which memory to choose from, because there are several that really, really just I still go back to, and that I think, am I embellishing this, or was it really as impressive as I remember it to be, or it was really so. But it's true, they left a mark on me, and fortunately, they were all positive marks, even though in
Good.
the moment it might have been a little bit intense. Well, maybe I should, since you asked about the orchestra, I have never been an orchestra musician employed by an orchestra.
Okay.
But I have done a lot of fill-ins and been the backup harpist. What I do is harpists know about me, and I can fill in pretty quickly. And I remember my first orchestral gig, we could call it, was as a student of fairly early in my student life. And my teacher said, "Oh, the harpist for this orchestra performance tonight is sick. She's not coming. And here's the harp part. You're going to learn it for your lesson today." Oh my goodness. So, but that's not the one I want to talk about. That was what taught me how to be ready on the spot.
Yep.
Fast forward quite a few years. It was the Christmas season. Somebody called me and said, there is a church that does a big Christmas program every year in, I believe it was North Carolina, maybe? North Carolina, South Carolina? Oh, I can't remember which one now. Anyway, one of the Carolinas. And their harpist that they always count on every year is unavailable this year, and they didn't get in touch with her soon enough to find out. So now they are up the creek without a paddle, so to speak. And what they're searching for a harpist. It's what was it? 2 weeks before the program. This is Christmas season. Every single harpist. Christmas is the booked season for harpists. You're not going to find anyone 2 weeks before a Christmas program.
Yeah,
You just aren't.
It's like trying to find a trumpeter for Easter services, right?
So this music director was calling everywhere, states away, to find a harpist. News got to me, and I checked my calendar and realized, well, I've got a gig the evening before. This is the morning after my gig, and I don't know how many hours it is, 18 hours drive or something. I can't drive that far, but maybe I'll let him know that I'm available if he wants me to fly. Long story short, I was the only harpist that had any availability. He sent me the music. I learned it within a couple of days, and my brother flew me there because we couldn't find a commercial flight that flew at that time of night from Nashville. And so he met me down the road from my evening gig. We drove to the airport, hopped in his little plane. He flew me there. They had a harp rented. I walked in the next morning, had 10 minutes to run through things with the conductor, and then it was time to do the performance.
Wow.
It was high stress. It was the sort of thing like, oh, I'm getting flown across country to do a harp performance. Last minute. This makes me feel kind of fancy. Like, people fly me around to do harp performances. This is cool.
You're like Taylor Swift. You're on your own private plane. You got to get to the next gig.
It wasn't mine, but anyway.
There you go.
It wasn't even my brother's, but friends and connections can be helpful. Anyway. So that one stuck in my mind as, as far as an orchestral event, that was kind of a big adventure and lots of fun. And fortunately, it was one of those I don't even get to rehearse with the orchestra beforehand, so just have to drop in. And I felt really good about my performance. You know, it was great. It was great. It went well. So
That sounds
all
cool.
that aside,
Fun
it was
story.
a fun adventure. Yeah. Okay, so what about you?
Okay.
What is the, let's say, what is the piece of, well, first of all, I assume that you're not quite as ignorant of rock music as I have been in my life, but in this whole journey that you've been through, I assume you've listened to quite a few pieces you never heard before.
Yeah.
And so, what is the piece of rock music that maybe surprised you the most in a good way, or that you really felt engaged with as a classical musician, classical composer, that really connected?
It's hard to pick just one.
I know.
There's actually, I'll tell you two.
Okay.
There's a reason why Close to the Edge is on my wall. I heard Close to the Edge by Yes, and it's the closest I've come to crying while listening to something for the YouTube channel, because when I get in, in like teacher mode, I don't typically get too emotional.
Exactly.
Because I'm looking analytically at what's going on.
Analytical, cold, hard, tear-it pieces.
This piece, Close to the Edge from Yes, just floored me, especially when the church organ came in, like 2/3 of the way through.
Ah, yes.
I was like, done. D-U-N, done. The other one that I think, gosh, Close to the Edge is one of my favorites, but I think one of my absolute favorites is a song by Genesis, and it's called Firth of Fifth. And
I heard that one. I've done that one.
It's from their album Selling England by the Pound, and it's got, I love the keyboards in it. It's got great, it has everything in it that I'm looking for in a piece of rock music. It's well constructed. It's got great form. It's got some really cool rhythmic stuff, especially at the beginning with those asymmetrical meters. It's got big time piano and one of the best guitar solos I've ever heard from Steve Hackett.
I guess that guitar solo was probably was Firth of Fifth. Was that the? I'm asking Vlad across the camera. Was that the first guitar solo that I really fell in love with? Firth of Fifth. If it wasn't the first, it was very close to the first. It was the first because electric guitar, rock guitar style. When I started this, I was like, okay, well. It's a sound I have to get used to.
It's a sound that you have to get more accustomed to, because the electrified string instrument, really, and all of the tools and tricks and the fact that they're tuned down. Like, I'm listening to something, I'm going, they're in E flat. They're like, no, he's in E, but he's tuned down. I'm like, same difference.
Exactly.
But the way that Steve Hackett is a classically trained musician. He played classical guitar, and so that translates into the melodic
and that
stuff.
Solo is just, it's exquisite. It's breathtaking.
And I got to hear him play it live.
Absolutely beautiful.
I got to hear him. Yeah.
Wonderful.
My wife Megan and I got to see Steve maybe a year and a half ago, and they played that tune, and it was the highlight of the show for me. It was really great.
How cool.
Love that one.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, you asked me about my start, so I'll ask you about the start of your journey here on YouTube, and what made you, like, how long have you been doing it, and what was your entry point into doing these YouTube videos?
Okay, that's another story. So, well, as COVID did for so many people, it was life-changing for practically everyone. It was the same for me in some surprising ways. Yes, it changed my whole teaching routine. My daily life changed. I ended up developing a relationship that eventually became my husband. We got married during the tail end of COVID. So,
wow.
So that was all happening, but all of our conversations working up to that point were over the phone. And we didn't really know each other before COVID. I guess Yeah, I mean, it was just as COVID was starting that we met. So all of our interactions were via phone. And anyway, along the way, we talked a lot about music. He loves music. He's not a musician. He adores classical music. He also loves rock music and all kinds of music. And so we were talking about music, and he asked me, he said, and everybody on my channel knows the famous, or we should say infamous question that he asked me. We were just talking about opera and voices and which voices we love and which opera singers and arias, which ones do we like, which ones are eh. And he said, so tell me, what do you think about Freddie Mercury and Montserrat Caballé when they in Barcelona? And I was quiet because the wheels in my head were spinning. I'm like, I know Montserrat Caballé, but who is this Freddie Mercury? Who's this Freddie Mercury? Is this some great hole I have? I don't know, some opera singer. I should know. If it's a famous name, I should know.
Sure.
And if he knows, I should know. I finally had to say, who is Freddie Mercury? And then it was his turn to be dead silent.
Yeah.
And he was, it took him a while to recover enough to say anything. Anyway, long story short, we ended up dating, got married, and after we got married, this whole discussion about Freddie Mercury, rock music, by that time he realized I'm clueless. I'm clueless about rock music. I know nothing about rock music. I know very little about modern music outside of the classical world. I mean, I live in the land of country music, okay? Fair enough. And you walk into a grocery store, you watch a movie, you'll hear things, but I'm not paying attention to it as music for music's sake. And I don't know, the artists, the performers, I don't know that stuff. Much less the pieces.
Yeah.
So he said, well, maybe we should. I said, I would like to start exploring. I've always been curious. I just haven't had the time, haven't taken the time, haven't put the energy into, because I've been so focused on my life. And I am a naturally curious person. So he said, well, we should do a YouTube channel. I said, whatever for? Just give me the music that you like, and I'll start there. He said, but we should record it. People would enjoy watching. I said, come on, surely. I mean, people have better things to do with their life, right? And he said, you wouldn't believe. People love watching other people discover music. I said, convince me. Anyway.
Yeah.
Eventually, he convinced me to try. And I still thought it was like, this funny little side project. Okay, I'll record a few videos. If anyone finds them on YouTube, no problem. What to name the channel? And it just came to me, Virgin Rock.
There you go. It's a great channel name. It really is.
And I didn't even have to think about it. It just happened. I told him, I said, what do you think about Virgin Rock? And he's like, how did you come up with that name? And anyway, that's how it all began. And I was shocked.
What was your first video?
He picked two pieces for me to hear first as kind of a way in. One was Freddie Mercury's Love of My Life with the harp, and or rather Queen's.
Yeah.
Freddie Mercury singing, Brian May playing the harp, and I learned the story about Brian May hauling that thing into the studio and trying to figure out how to tune it and everything. I think that's fabulous and a bit humorous. And then he picked the Beatles' She's Leaving Home, also because it starts with the harp.
She's Leaving Home.
And
that's a heck of a Beatles song to start with, but I guess, you'd go for the harp.
Yeah,
sure.
I went for the harp, and of course the string accompaniment and stuff. And those are my two introductions, and kind of softened me as far, because I told him, I said, come on, rock music, it's all factory noise. I mean, it's you got this roaring, screaming guitar, voices, whatever. Obviously, I was ignorant. And I knew I was ignorant, which is why I was willing to explore. But so that's how it started. And I was astonished at the response on YouTube. It exploded. I'm like, oh, you mean there are that many people that are enjoying this? Okay, fine, I'll do some more.
And they're so nice. The people that watch.
They are.
They're so nice, especially when we're taking care with the music that they love, you know, because they don't get to listen to it for the first time again, so they'll have to you know, remember that through our experience. Yeah.
Right. And the community that has just built up is just absolutely lovely. That was one of my reluctances putting everything online. I said, I know online social media can be brutal, and do I really want this in my life? And but I said, give it a try. You know, I think you'll be surprised at the way people behave. And I have been very pleasantly surprised, and I've come to really enjoy and be attached to those who have gathered around, and you know, it feels like kind of a group of friends.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay. Well, another question for you. What has been the biggest surprise? Doesn't necessarily have to be a piece of music, but the biggest surprise for you in this journey to date?
Just how, I don't know, biggest surprise, just how ignorant I was. I thought, I know, like, I've heard of these bands, sure, you know, but I don't know the repertoire. The thing is, as a composer, I get caught up spending a lot of time writing my own stuff. And as a teacher at a university, it was, you got to know the actual rep. You got to know the symphonies and the string quartets and the cantatas and the operas. And, you know, it's repertoire that you need to spend time with. There's hundreds of years worth of rep that we spend time with. Right? So it's not, and you would be tired at the end of the day. Like when I would come home at the end of the day, it's more music wasn't typically on my schedule because my ears are tired. I've been, you know, doing that all day.
You need to let your mind clear. You need to let the sound just fade and kind of get a clean start. Yeah.
But what did occur to me, or what did happen with all of those years, is you learn the tools to process and listen to music very quickly. We've got to, okay, here's the piece I'm listening to. It's got all these traits. This. How do I remember that? Okay, cool. It was this person. They wrote it this year, and it's got these sounds. It's in this key. This is its form. And I go on to the next one, and you just build. And that's what I started doing with this. It's like, okay, there's all this repertoire that's out there that I need to get into my bones because it's great. It really, really is. There's so much of this stuff that has just gone unnoticed by me in the past, and it's just wonderful to come back to it. The other thing that really has surprised me in this journey is just the community itself. Because when I started this, I was like, well, it'll just be me in my house making some videos and putting them on YouTube, and that'll be it. But then it was people just, the same people start to come around, and you start to develop friendships with them. And then we have a Patreon community, and all of a sudden, a couple years later, they're some of my closest friends. And we haven't really ever, a lot of them we haven't met, you know? And so it's just the love of the community that that springs up around what I've been doing. And I love these folks. And it's been just
truly beautiful.
Yeah, an unexpected reward, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So I have, I have another question for you. I think. Do you have a favorite non-classical piece that you've discovered on your YouTube channel? So you asked me about some of my pieces that have really wowed me. So turn it around and see what you have to say.
Okay. Well, as you said, it's hard to pick just one. And I guess I'll mention the one that became probably my first, the one that really first impacted me deeply and I really grabbed onto was probably Child in Time.
Deep Purple.
That was such an experience hearing that one. And it's one of those pieces that just stuck with me afterwards, you know, and kind of, I felt like, you know, it went deep and it's an incredible piece of music.
Yeah, it is.
And yeah, that's one. and I still, because it was the first that really had that kind of impression on me. Of course, it was very memorable. And yes, I've had numerous others come through which also have made big impressions, but the first one is always so memorable. And so I don't know if I could say it's my top favorite, but I'd have to sit down and refresh my mind of all the names of pieces I've been through and think, okay, yes, I love that one. I love that one. Oh, that one. Which one? But Child in Time was the first that really was, oh my goodness, this is incredible.
It's a good one.
It is. A recent one, which is very different and not impressive in that way, but there's something very precious about it, is Queen's Bijou. And it's such a jewel, isn't it? There's something kind of art songy about it, that it feels like I don't know, just a very special little gem. And
I love Queen. They're such a unique band, aren't they?
Oh, they are. And I've been doing this series of 50 Queen pieces to get to know them better. And so I have kind of Queen is fresh in my mind right now. So that's been a lot of fun. But yeah, I have kind of this list of favorites, but I guess that would be the most recent that was just incredibly special, and also the first that stood out to me.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I guess I have one more question for you too. What are your plans and expectations for the future regarding your YouTube channel and the music that you're going to review? What are you thinking of?
It's I just hope to continue it. It's a journey that I know that I'm not through, even though I've done a ton of episodes. We're closing in on my 800 episode.
Whoa, good for you.
Yeah, on YouTube. And that's not even counting we've done over 60 full albums over on Patreon.
Wow.
So we stay busy, because if I'm not busy, I'll get in trouble. I'll find some mischief to, But the thing that I've started doing lately that I really enjoy is doing some teaching, doing some online teaching. I've done a couple of online classes. I really do miss the classroom and seeing that light bulb go on, in a student's mind that opens up a new level of musicianship for them. We've done some composition courses. We've done an orchestration course, a course on chromaticism, and I'm trying to figure out what to do next. But we've had people that come in and treat it like their own continuing ed. I can't really offer anything for college credit, unfortunately, but we've got a brand now, and people are trusting me, and we're gonna do some teaching, and I started writing a prog piece just to see if I could, and I just
cool. Okay.
I've been so busy that I haven't been able to do a whole lot of work. I started it and I was really happy with the start of it, but I haven't had a chance to work more on it. So hopefully, as we go on, I'll be able to finish that. And what my hope is to send it out to my community and crowdsource some players. Like, hey, who out there is a drummer?
That would be fun.
Who out there is a bass player, and so on, right? And see if we can just toss the charts around and play a little bit and see what we come up with. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
That's a great idea. I think that's wonderful.
So hopefully, if I can get that done, we'll do that in the near future. The last question that I had for you was just what other hobbies and interests you have that are outside of your music outlets. What other things do you enjoy doing?
I love to read. I enjoy cooking. I especially enjoy cooking for a crowd. It's fun. Right now, my hobby is my family, as far as every spare minute I spend with my little girl, and I
Oh,
adore her, and that's great. I love being outdoors. I love, you know, walking, hiking, uh, swimming, biking,
there you go.
bicycling, not motorbiking.
I love being outdoors, but I don't like being like out camping, you know. I don't mind being outside, but I like being sequestered from all of the bugs as much as I can.
I don't love the bugs. And being in Tennessee, we have plenty of bugs. You know,
Yeah,
sometimes I
yeah.
read articles about the insect world is collapsing around the world. Well, if you're missing insects, come to Tennessee.
Come to
I'll introduce
Tennessee.
you to a few. But yeah, it's been a long time since I went camping, and probably will be a long while till I do. But it's there's something beautiful about stepping outside and hearing the bird songs in the morning and
Yeah.
seeing the early sunlight and the fresh air, and it makes the world come alive. And it's the same feeling I get when I listen to a beautiful piece of music.
Indeed.
To me, it's like it's that same sort of, soul cleansing, life uplifting feeling that just makes the whole world a better place.
It does, doesn't it? Music is a great
Yeah.
companion. It helps us to feel, a thought.
Yeah.
And it's a great companion. I don't know, I grew up a sports kid. I've become a music adult, and I still follow sports some, but not as much
Okay.
as not nearly as much as I used
Yeah.
to. And it's okay, it's music is such a rewarding thing. It's always there for you as
It
as
is. It
as an
is.
outlet, and the other people, the people that watch what we do online, I think understand that, and they're empathetic to it, and
Yeah.
they're eager for us to experience the same emotions and be moved by the sounds that they have. No matter what the
Exactly.
style, no matter what the style of music it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I feel like, this modern age where, as you said, the generational turnover and the struggle of universities to find out how to relate to and meet the new generations, and continue to pass on the knowledge store that they have.
Yeah.
Somehow this experience on YouTube with my channel has been really special in that it's proof that the love of music hasn't died. It's proof that people are continuing to not just enjoy and consume, but to create music. And it's proof that the desire to learn and explore is still there. And you're talking about educational stuff in your channel, and I think that's just fabulous. And the opportunity to be able to reach not just whoever comes to university, but anyone anywhere,
Yeah.
is just we can lament all that modern life has brought us on the negative side, but we can also look and say, isn't this just an incredible gift?
Indeed.
And I think it's fabulous.
We have a few with our Patreon community, maybe once or twice a month, we'll do a Zoom call, and we just hang out. And we spin some tunes. We talk about what's going on the channel. I get their ideas for what repertoire I should be doing and all of that. But invariably, we get people from 3 or 4 continents
Yeah, yes,
hanging
yes.
out at the same time.
It's beautiful.
Just enjoying each other's company. I'm like, we've got international relations covered right here.
Totally.
It's going to be
And
great.
music is the tool for that. So let's keep it going.
If we're making music or listening music, we're not fighting with each other, and that's a good thing. Well,
Exactly.
I don't know. Sometimes we're fighting with each other. If the drummer's going too fast, you never know.
Yes, well, at least it reduces the level of violence. So let's
sure.
keep it going that
For
direction.
sure.
Yeah. Well, Doug, it has been an absolute delight. I'm so happy that we finally got to get together and have this conversation.
Me too.
I've enjoyed it immensely. I could sit here and talk for another hour because I don't know, when I get together with any musician, it just goes on forever and it's too much fun. But I know you have things to do, and I know I have a little girl who's waiting for me, so we should wrap it up here.
Yeah, let's do it
And,
again sometime.
Let's do it again sometime. Let's stay in touch, and I wish you all the best with your channel. Thank you for this, and
You're welcome.
we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, sounds good. It's great to meet you and share some stories, and I know a little bit more about your background, and I wish you all the best as well as we go along here, and you know, there's lots of music waiting for us, so let's go out and see what it sounds like.
All right, let's do that. Thanks again.
Thank you.
And have a great rest of the day.
You too. See you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.